Before I carry on making this plug in part 2, I've got a little bit of an update on the RD500 two-stroke engine, the one I welded the crankcases together for. I called in to see the lad to pick 1 or 2 bits up that I've got a machine for him, and he had the bike on its stand there. I did some video, took some like just handheld video shots just to show what he's been up to. Hats off to the lad. I mean, he's doing this with hand tools. It really is good. I've never met anybody with as much enthusiasm for a project as I have this lad here. I'm sure you'll find it interesting to see what he's done to it. It's not that far off running, to tell you the truth. There's little bits and pieces. Well, they're big bits and pieces, but there's no doubt about it. He'll get the thing running. Anyway, that's enough talk. Let's have a look and see what he's getting up to. A little bit of an update on the RD500. I welded the crankcases together. As you can see, the lad's been really busy. He's actually got it mounted in a frame now, so he can get things lined up. There's 1 or 2 little bits and pieces I need to do, but basically he's doing all this himself, just using the hand tools. He's made an extension for where the points go, because obviously it's got to have more points than a standard bike to get the spark, and that's how he's done it. And I'm going to make a small extension shaft, and he's actually going to hand file the points cam on the end of that. The final drive is still to do. I've got a little bit of welding to do on that once it gets things finalised, but it's certainly starting to take shape. Right, so now we've got a gauge made to make sure that the thread is the right size. We can also use that to hold the plug in the dividing head when we're coming to put the hex on. I've got a piece of 2-inch steel bar here. There's definitely one of them inside of there. It's just a case of finding the bastard. So we'll get this squared up, get it machined down to size, and get some threads cut on it. And then the interesting bit, they'll probably be putting the hex on the end. In fact, I think it's all interesting. It's all good stuff, like. This is already at 50mm 2-inch, which is the same size as that, so it doesn't take anything off the outside. We need to measure the outside of the thread, the OD of the thread, which is 38mm. So we aim for 38.1 or 0.2, then go from there. So if I zero this will give me a direct reading of how much I've got to take off. 12mm, 6mm aside. I don't want to use a power feed on this because it's got the imperial change gears in and they're bloody noisy. I'm going to centre drill this. It'll be handy for when I come to set it up to do the hex. I always like to drill the centre hole in parts I make on the lathe in case you need to put it back on the lathe. It makes it so much simpler if you've got a centre to work to. I'm going to put a centre in there. You can hear it starting to sing. It is sticking on quite a long way. It certainly won't do any harm to put a centre in there. Dead on size. Next thing is to machine a groove in here for the screw cutting tool to drop into and put a little chamfer on that edge there. So loosen the tool first off and just use the face of the chuck to make sure the parting tool is in fact at 90 degrees to the job. That's going to go in there to a depth of 2.5mm. The layer's already set to cut that thread, so I know it's going to be right, but I don't like to put the marking glue on because it looks quite nice when it initially cuts the thread. That's an 11 TPI insert. We'll make sure it's nice and square to the job, like that. Tighten the tool post up. I know it is dead on centre height. I use it all the time and I have just checked it. I'll be careful when we get to the end here. We haven't got a great lot of room to get the tool out of there. Enough but not vast amount, so we'll be cutting it at a fairly slow pace. Right, once again, touch the tool off. Zero cross side and the readout on a DRO. And put a little bit of cut on. And as normal on an imperial thread, once I engage the half nuts, which I've just done, that's it. We'll just use the clutch and reverse the motor. Yeah, it's very, very tight at the end, really careful, yeah. Normally I would check the thread with the gauge, but I don't need to. But saying that, it won't do any harm. If I could find the gauge, of course. Time for the tidy up, John. Right, there you go. Right, so that's 11 TPI. You can see it's absolutely spot on. What we didn't do was wind some cut on. So what happens when you play with cameras, you've got to be so careful. It'll take nothing to scrap this job, nothing at all. And it just goes on till we get the thread to full depth. I'm putting about 0.2 on per cut, 0.2 a side. Amazing how it speeds up when you get towards the shoulder on the job. We'll do a spring cut to cut on exactly the same setting just to clean the thread up, and we'll try the nut on. It's getting fairly near. See, even without putting any more feed on, it is taking quite a decent amount of material out of there. Right, that's right over the shoulder. Happy with that. Very happy indeed. Leave that in there nice and tight so it doesn't slip when we're putting the middle of the hex onto it. And I'll have to set the machine up so when it's milling it, it actually tightens and not slackens. Right. Running certainly true enough for what it's got to be. We'll face it, centre drill it. The centre drill will help us just line things up. Of course, when we come to get it out of the holder, it'll have a hex on so we can get a spanner on. And that should work out quite nicely. Take that sharp edge off. I don't cut my fingers. Right, now I want a hex on there. Once again, just time to say thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, please do, it is important. And don't forget, if you've got sort of any, I don't know, I've just got to say it, any sort of depression signs or mental illness, get it sorted, go and get help, for Christ's sake. Help is available. There's too many lads bottle us up and it ends up in tragedy. Anyway, thanks for watching.